I didn't know that God was speaking to me through the book, through the birds, through this video, like kind of like preparing me, hey, this is coming. But there were so many signs. And all this to tell you, you are never alone. Like the whole universe is speaking to you. God is with you. And even though we can't feel it, ultimately everything works for the good of everyone. As hard as this is to understand from a limited human perspective, throughout all these 3 days that he was there recovering, I did a timeline jump. I was like, I do not accept this reality right now. I decide that I'm going to tap into a frequency of he survives and he is healthy and he will get through this. Turns out I had over another year with him, which I think is pretty amazing, knowing that I was told that he wouldn't last 3 days. Hello, my loves, and welcome back. I am so excited for today because today is episode 1 of my brand new podcast, and I'm going to get into why I had the inspiration and intuition of doing a podcast. This is a different camera. I'm still getting used to the setup. I wasn't sure if I wanted to look straight into the camera or look here at my notes. I don't know yet. I'm still figuring things out. I've been on YouTube for like 10 years, but I'm very new to the podcast world. So please bear with me. So based on the title, you know that today's video is going to be about grief, how I move myself through these horrendous emotions that come with losing a loved one. And I'm going to do my best to get through this episode without crying. I know grief is a intense topic to start a podcast with, but I feel like this, like the passing of Nero, my cat, is literally what was like the trigger to me starting this podcast. I'm gonna get into why in a minute. But I had the nudge and the intuition to start a podcast for a while, but there's been so much like chatter in my mind about like, I don't want to be another podcaster. Like everybody these days is starting a podcast. But then I personally love listening to podcasts. I listen to them all the time when I'm driving, when I'm, cleaning my home. I prefer long form audio content personally, or even if I look at video, like even if I have a video running on YouTube, I usually don't look at it because I'm usually always doing something. And if you're a busy mom, if you are just busy in general, I know you can relate. So this is going to be super relaxed. I'm in my PJs. I'm filming this on December 31st. You're probably going to see this in the new year. So another reason why I wanted to start a podcast was because lately I've been feeling not uninspired with YouTube, but uninspired with like content creation for YouTube. Why? Because I feel like the space has changed a lot over the years and there's good and bad parts about it. But the first one of them being that I felt like I had to rush through my videos, and if I wasn't giving someone like a 3-step manifestation technique or protocol, whatever you want to call it, then like I felt like I just had to get straight to the point. And like I get it that there are people that are coming to YouTube exactly for that, like to just get something out of a video. But that's not why I started my channel. I started my channel by sharing from the heart and sharing experiences, like real life experiences that I went through. And I always kept it very personal. And lately, I felt like I had to be so professional on here. Everything had to be like, guys, sometimes the camera setup would take me like 40 minutes just to set up my DSLR camera. I don't want to have it around all the time when I'm not filming. So setting it up takes a lot of time. And I'm recording on my iPhone right now. I have my notes on my computer here. This feels so much easier. It may not be the same quality of camera, but like, who freaking cares at this point? I just want this to be so like we're sitting at home together and we're having a chat over tea or coffee or martini, whatever you want to drink. That's how I want it to feel. That's what I feel like that's the energy that I feel like I have cultivated in our Glow Up membership. It's such a sisterhood, it's such a community, it's such a like tight knit intimate space where everybody can come to be held and supported. And that's what I want this space to feel like. So, like I said, Nero's passing was kind of like the catalyst that led me to create this podcast, because I kid you not, I was resisting creating this for like 2 years. I don't know what it is about it. I think I just didn't want to have another thing to take care of because it's already so much with YouTube and Instagram and my membership, and if you are an entrepreneur and if you do content creation, you know how much, like, it's a lot of things that we have to think of. Um, and I know I have to get better at delegating things. So, as I said, I'm going to talk about grief in this podcast and how I lead myself through these emotions and the exact process that I do to get myself out of just, crying nonstop. I didn't know I had that many tears in my, like, I didn't know that I could produce that many tears. I was mentally prepared for Nero's passing, but it still shook me to my core. They are babies, and there were so many synchronicities around his passing, which I'm gonna share in a little bit. Um, but what I know is that so much gold is going to come out of this grief. And this is actually a law, a universal law that a lot of people don't know about. It's the law of rhythm. Although to me, calling it the law of polarity makes more sense. You both have the law of rhythm and the law of polarity. They're pretty similar. Basically, it means that whenever you get, for example, super, 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 super excited, right? Nature always has to create balance. So that's why some of the Buddhists say to always stay at 12 o'clock, to not get too excited, like not go too far off this one side of the pendulum, because it always comes, like the pendulum always swings back. Like this is just a universal law, like it or not. So when something really, really bad happens, we saw this with COVID. Like when something really bad happens, a lot of good is coming out of it as well. Like so many people went after their dreams after getting like laid off from their job. So many people had spiritual awakenings during that time. Like so many people shifted their lives completely for the better, even though it was this terrible plague that hit the entire world. So this is one example. Sometimes when we get like super, super, super excited and have you ever noticed that sometimes you have like blessings or major manifestations come into your life, and literally a week after or so, you are hit with the loss of a loved one, an accident, or just things happen sometimes where everything happens at once, whether we deem them good or bad. Like it's like that's this law that is in motion. And this is not to scare you, okay? This is just to say that, if you are going through something very challenging, know that there is good that is going to come out of this. Like, literally, the worst times of my life have led me to so much inner healing that have led me to my highest timeline, okay? And there were so many synchronicities around his passing, which I'm going to share about later. I feel like God was just talking to me all week last week, and I didn't notice it at first. But basically, so here's the story about what happened with my cat. If you don't know who Nero is, Nero was my, I actually want to say still is because his spirit lives on. He is my eldest cat, my baby. I've had him for 12 years. I initially got him when I got him for my mom as a gift. And he was the last one to go. Like, no one wanted him because he was a black cat. He was so sweet, like just this innocent little baby. And even when he grew up later on, he was just like, I always joked and said like he couldn't hurt a fly. Like, he was just so gentle and so innocent, and he was always present when I was meditating, when I was filming videos. He was always there. Like, I feel like he was a protector in the unseen realms. And so I got him initially for my mom. My mom didn't want him at the time because she just felt like she was working a 9 to 5, and she felt like she couldn't give him the care and attention that he needs. And I couldn't bear to give him up. Like, I was like, what do we do? And I was in a different country at university, living in my tiny studio apartment with no windows, if you guys know that story. Um, and I was like, I'm just gonna take you with me. I already had a cat, my dear cat, which passed away in 2018, who I spent 17 years with. That was a hard one as well. But anyway, I took him with me, and we drove 8 hours across the border. At one point, like, he was meowing a lot. It was at night, and I just like put my hand, like I was driving, I put my hand in the cage to like comfort him while I was driving. And I noticed that he was so small. He was only like 6 weeks, which is way too early to get a cat. I don't know why they like gave them up for adoption that fast. And he was the last one to go. So at one point, I couldn't find him in the car. Like, he had left, he was wandering out, exploring in the car while I was on a highway. So I pulled over and I tried to find this tiny little black fur ball in my car. I was so scared that he had gotten like around like the pedals of the car, but thank God he was just like exploring in the back. So drove 8 hours across the borders with him, got home, and it was a love story ever since then. And he gave me so much love. And something that came through when he passed was like, what if the entire purpose of us having pets and them just loving us unconditionally and us loving them unconditionally is to show us that we get to be loved unconditionally as humans, no matter our status, no matter our achievements, no matter our weight, no matter the number in our bank account. Like, we get to be loved unconditionally. That's really the message that I got when he passed. Like, you deserve to be loved in this way by another human, and we all do. And that is something that I wish so dearly for the world, that we love each other unconditionally in the same way. So fast forward to about a year ago, he was diagnosed with, like, he at one point was very overweight, and then started to rapidly lose weight. So I took him to the vet, and he was diagnosed with hyperthyroidism. So he was put on the medication that they give you for hyperthyroidism. And a month after, he was just not doing well. He was not looking good. And at some point, he was just coughing up blood. And that was extremely scary to see. And I immediately took him to the vet. And the vet just gave him something to like plaster his stomach and said, he probably just ate something that was sharp or whatever, and sent him home. And the next day, actually no, that evening, I had a dinner. So I went out for dinner, and when I came home, trigger warning, when I came home to what I can only describe as it looked like a crime scene. There was red everywhere, on the couch, on my floor, on all the floors of my house. And I'm someone who I can't see that. Like, I'm extremely sensitive to such things. Like, I get nauseous and dizzy. And it was just like, I was in shock. And I immediately took him to, because it was a weekend by then, so I first took him to my vet. It was Saturday. I first took him to my vet, and they said he needs like more testing. We don't have these machinery or whatever available. He needs to go to a special clinic. And so he got an appointment there the next day. And so I had to wait the entire night, and he was just coughing up more blood and more blood. And by the next morning, Sunday morning, he was so weak, like he could barely stand. And I was like, we need to go now. And so I drove him there to the specialist clinic, and immediately as I walked in there, I got like a weird feeling. They were very stressed out. Some of the staff had COVID, and they were just like, it was not like, when someone's having a bad day, I could tell that the vet had a bad day. So they were extremely stressed, and just like the computers weren't working. Anyway, he was taken in, and I was told that he needed to, spend the weekend there, and spend at least 3 days there. He needed a blood transfusion, and they were like, usually, like, he needs like cat blood, but we have to like order cat blood, and that like takes 3 days to get here. Like, they didn't have it in stock, because like he lost so much blood that he was like, he could have passed away any moment. And so they're doing all these tests, like, to see like, where is this coming from? Like, why is he coughing up so much blood? Why is there so much blood? His eyes, like, you can tell in a cat's eyes, like, usually there's some color there. It was white. It was so white. Like, he could not walk anymore. He was so weak. He couldn't even stand on his legs anymore. And so that was a shock, because at that point, like, he had hyperthyroidism. If a cat is well medicated, usually can live a long life with hyperthyroidism. So anyway, I don't want to make this too long. The vet goes, we only have dog blood in stock, and some cats take it very well, some don't, but we cannot wait 3 days for the other one to arrive. We have to give him a blood transfusion immediately. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Anything to save his life. And so I had to wait until the next day to see how he responded to that. They called me. They said he responded. Thank God he responded really well. All this time, I'm just like, I'm praying. And I was just in so much stress. Thank God he took the blood transfusion well. So when you give, I didn't even know that was possible, but a dog blood transfusion, it lasts about 7 days for a cat, and when it's like a cat blood transfusion for a cat, it lasts about a month. So the effects weren't as strong, but it really helped him to survive. Then they did a bunch of tests, and they found that he had, this huge goiter/tumor. They didn't know if it was cancer or not. And I felt extremely rushed when they were calling me, and it was very much like, what do you want to do? We can do this, but, we'll have to like put him like under anesthesia. We don't know if he's strong enough to make it through the anesthesia because he has a heart condition as well. So do you want to do it? Do you not want to do it? Like, we need an answer in like 30 minutes because we don't have enough staff. Like, it was just like so fast paced, and like there was no, like, I get it that they were in stress, but it felt very off to me. Like, in my body, I was like, something doesn't feel right. And I called my vet, the one that I go to usually, and she said, even if he has like this huge tumor, it's a very invasive surgery. Your cat is very like weak right now. I wouldn't put him through that. Like, she was like, I would just put him to rest. And I listened to her because she's a good doctor. But my intuition said something entirely different, and that's the point that I want to get into this video. Your intuition always knows the truth. My intuition was like, get him out of there. Like, now. He's good. He survived. He stopped bleeding. They gave him this. Thank God they saved his life, right? I'm so thankful for that. So I just called him and I said, you know what? I don't want to put him through all this, like, all these tests, all these operations. I don't want to put, like, all these surgeries. I don't want to put him through that. I'm going to take him back and I'm going to give him, I didn't tell them that my intuition said to take him out. I was just like, I'm going to give him the best life that he has with the days that he has left. So I went to pick him up and the vet said, if you take him out now, like, it's your choice, but just letting you know that if you take him out now, he may last only, he will last only a few days. So I take him back and they actually like gave me, like, they brought him out and he was not even in his own cage. Like, he was in someone else's cage. And I'm like, why is he not in his own cage? Like, what happened there behind those closed doors? Like, everything just, and he was in so much stress. Like, usually when he comes back from the vet, he's upset, but he's not in like you could tell in his eyes he was stressed out. Like, he didn't know where to look. Like, there was panic in his eyes. I was so glad that I got my baby back. And throughout all these 3 days that he was there recovering, I was like, I did a timeline jump. I was like, I do not accept this reality right now. I decide that I'm going to tap into a frequency of he survives and he is healthy and he will get through this no matter what. I went through the next few weeks with the intention of, I'm going to give him the best life with what he has left. I didn't know how much time I had left with him. Turns out I had over another year with him, which I think is pretty amazing, knowing that I was told that he wouldn't last 3 days. So that is the power of, working with the quantum and working with timelines. Now, do people and pets pass away? Yes, ultimately everybody has, their time when their time comes. And I was in complete surrender with that as well. I prayed to God. I was like, if it's his time to go, then it will be his time. But I knew, like, this is not his time to go. Like, a year ago, I was like, this is not his time right now. And I was so sure and so convicted of that I created that, right? And okay, long story short, fast forward to about this summer, he started to, no, he was really well in the summer. Around October, he started to, like, his health was really declining, and I was carrying him around a lot. Like, he couldn't jump on the bed anymore. I was cleaning his poop 5 times a day because of his condition. He was just like emptying himself a lot, like, yeah, it was a lot. And I made sure every single day, because this is also like the beauty of knowing that, and we should apply this with everything, because we never know when the last time is going to be with someone, right? But I made sure to tell him every single day how loved he was. Like, every time. I don't care how many times I said it in a day. Every time I looked at him, I was like, I love you. I kept telling him, I love you, I love you, I love you. Like, I gave him so much love because I know that love heals. And he spent a lot of his last days on a chair that's in my front yard, and he just lay there. He would just lay there all day. And the past few weeks, he was very, like, he didn't move a lot. He was just very tired and lost a lot of weight. I gave him a lot of, like, all the supplements that he needed. Um, but ultimately, I forgot to say this as well, the reaction, so the reason why he was coughing up all this blood was the vet at the ICU said that it was his tumor bleeding. But when in actuality, I had done my research, it was the meds that caused the excessive bleeding. Because how come that for 11 years my cat never has anything, never has any emergency? The minute I give him this medication, a month later, he has this condition. I was like, this is just logical, rational thinking. I know you have to proceed by elimination, like, the protocol that the doctors and vets use, but I just knew that it was the medication. And my own vet just recently confirmed with me that yes, the medication has probably caused that, so I wouldn't continue giving it to him. So I couldn't give him the medication, right? Because I was like, if I continue giving him, like, that's a death sentence for him. So it was probably his condition that just got worse over time, and it was probably just his time to go. I was surrendered with that. So last week he stopped eating. He stopped eating and drinking. He really didn't want to. I tried everything, like the most appetizing things where he would usually throw himself over. None of it worked. And come Saturday, I just prayed to God. I was like, God, if it's his time to go, if it's not, then he'll get better. And if it is, then just make it quick. I can't bear to see him suffer like this anymore. And by Saturday evening, I just knew. I just knew, because he all of a sudden within hours got a lot worse. He wasn't moving anymore. And Sunday morning, we took him to the vet to, put him out of his suffering. And thank God that my mom was there, because I could not have done this alone. And yeah, that is the story of a beautiful Nene, how I like to call him, leaving us. And I just want to say thank you so much for all your sweet messages. So many of you, actually, a friend of mine as well lost her cat the exact same day that I did. And so many of you told me similar stories. So my heart goes out to all of you who are grieving. And, sometimes the loss of a pet can be even more painful than the loss of a human, because they give us such unconditional love, and they are so, like, loving and so unconditional. And I also knew intuitively, I knew that he would, like, the past few weeks, I intuitively knew that he would pass in the coming months. I thought I had maybe more time with him, but I felt it coming. I just felt it in my, in my gut, my intuition. And so there were so many synchronicities around his passing as well. One of them was that morning where I had to take him to the vet Sunday morning. He did not walk anymore. For some reason, as I was getting ready, I was in the bathroom downstairs. He walked down the stairs, the entire stairs. He came down and he stood next to me and he rubbed on like my legs. And it was like he knew, and it was like he was saying thank you for everything and all these years that we have spent together. At the same time, around Christmas, I was gifted a book called The Shack, and it talks about basically this family's daughter that passed away. I'm not going to reveal the details. And the father gets a message from God, like a letter from God, to meet in the very place where his daughter passed away, his 6-year-old daughter. And there he spends like a weekend in the presence of God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit. And the book, I think it has like 18 million copies sold. It talks about just the questions that we have when we go through so much pain, like where is God when all this suffering is happening in the world? And it talks about so many things, and I saw so many parallels between what I was going through and like the pain that I was going through. And in the book, I was gonna say movie because there's a movie as well, God doesn't tell him like, God doesn't just like take his pain away. He's like, you need to feel this. Like, you need to heal. You need to feel this in order to heal. And it's just such a powerful analogy to what I always say, like the only way out is through. Like we have to feel our feelings, not to get stuck in them, but to let them out. Suppressing is not the way. And so the past few days, honestly, the grief was paralyzing. It brought up so much with my stepdad, who we lost last year as well. And it just brought up so many things, as well as like, why am I like, I just wanted someone to just hold me, and I'm like, why am I single during this time? Like, why? Like, just all the stuff that you think about when you're just in so much pain and you're just crying out to God. So I feel for every person that is listening to this that is struggling with grief, that has lost a loved one. Like I said, this is something, like, grief is one of the worst emotions to feel, and it feels empty. It feels just like you have this hole, and then you come home and there's like their absence that is just so palpable. And the hardest part was just like coming home and like seeing his food still laying there, and certain, the chair that he was on, the blanket had all of his fur on it, and I haven't washed the blanket yet, and I don't want to right now because it's like the only thing that is left of him. And I know it sounds crazy, but if that's what I need to do to give me like something to hold on to, that's what I'm gonna do. And so, long story short, I am gonna give you guys right now the process that I went through, that I used to take myself through these hard times. And yeah, another synchronicity, like the week before his passing, I went on a hike and I saw this eagle fly over me. Now, usually, sometimes I see them, but I see them far away. This one flew by, like literally straight over my head. And then a day or two later, where I live, there's like a hawk that I see flying around. He's been there for many years. And I know he lives around here somewhere. But I have only seen him like in flight all these years. And what happened blew me away. He sat. So when I'm in my living room, I look out into just nature, and I have these super high, like almost 6 meter high, like the ceiling is super high. So I have these super high windows. And so he sat on a branch there, right in front of my window. And just, I don't know if he was looking in or, but he was face towards me. And I was like, whoa, that's a synchronicity. I didn't know what it meant, but these birds showing up. And um another one that I saw, like another synchronicity, was 2 days before he started to get like he started to feel unwell. I was watching Earth Files, Linda Moulton Howe's YouTube channel. I love her. She is, oh my gosh, she's amazing. If you love the topic of UFO disclosure, you will love her. She's just so amazing. And she was actually in that video talking about the passing of her cat. And she was talking about how she, at the end of her cat's life, she carried him or her around. It was a him. She carried him around everywhere. And the night before he passed away, he made it up to the stairs into her bedroom. Something that he wasn't able to do. Same as with Nero. But when I was listening to that, I didn't know, right? I didn't know that God was speaking to me through the book, through the birds, through this video, like kind of like preparing me, hey, this is coming. But there were so many signs. And all this to tell you, you are never alone. Like the whole universe is speaking to you. God is with you. And even though we can't feel it, this is a big topic in the book as well, like we can't feel him working in our lives. Ultimately, everything works for the good of everyone. As hard as this is to understand from a limited human perspective. So, I have talked a lot about the story. I just wanted to give you guys the story of how everything happened. And here are two really powerful things that I do to get myself through these really challenging, hard times. The first one is somatics and practicing somatic experiencing to really help me move through these emotions where they don't get stuck in the body. Sometimes when we have traumatic experiences, they can get stuck in the body, and then we end up in a fight or flight or freeze nervous system state, which we don't want to end up in. I was stuck in freeze for years, many years ago, and I didn't even know it. And when I got trained in somatic experiencing and I took a course on somatic experiencing, everything changed for me. And we do this a lot in our Glow Up membership as well. There's 2 entire master classes that I have where I teach you, because there's only so much that I can teach you in this podcast. If you want to dive deeper into this, there's the Glow Up membership. I will link it in the show notes and in the description box of the video below. But what you can do is to just sit down and notice what's going on in your body. Like, what are my thoughts right now? And especially around this grief, for example, like what are the thoughts that are running through my mind right now? And just notice, what are some images that are coming up? So you want to go with the acronym TIMES, TIMES. So thoughts, images, what are some images that are coming up? And just notice them. Is there a movement, right? Times. Is there a movement that I want to make? It could be, sometimes it could be like a pushing away motion. Sometimes you just want to hug yourself. Like, what is a move? Do I want to run? Do I want to punch a pillow? Like, what's a movement? And a movement can even be saying something. Like, is there something that I want that wants to be said, or that wants to be even screamed out? Then there's emotions. So, what emotions am I feeling in my body right now? And then there's sensation. So, sensation is basically hot, cold, um, tight, expanded. And you can look up sensation language because sensation is the language that we're least fluent in. Like, we are not taught sensation language, but it is extremely powerful to notice like where these things are happening in your body so that you can observe them. And usually when we observe them, it like there's this natural thing that happens where it regulates itself. Again, I could go so into depth in with somatics. Like, it's just a topic that fascinates me so much and that I love to research, just the nervous system, because no matter like the grief that I was feeling and the sadness of this whole situation, my nervous system was calm throughout the entire process. And it's not to say that I didn't feel extreme sadness and that I didn't cry for like the past 2 days. I feel like I have just cried all day long. I feel like I look like it as well. But it needed to come out. I didn't press it, right? I let myself feel everything that I needed to feel before moving on. Um, so times is extremely powerful. And then if you notice that the sensations can be a little too intense, like you're like, this is a lot, this feels overwhelming, just orient yourself in the room. Like, notice where you are. Tell yourself, I'm in my bedroom right now, I'm in my living room, I am physically safe right now. Just telling yourself is super powerful. It probably sounds weird, but your subconscious is registering everything that you tell yourself, and you are. You are safe because you're probably sitting somewhere safe right now. Like, you are not being chased by a lion right now. So, that is a super powerful process in itself. And then another one that has helped so many of my members and students. They go through this process so many times. Like, each time they have a block, each time they have an emotion that they can't shake off, that they want to get rid of, like a fear or just intense grief that has been lingering for weeks, months, even years. I have a clear any block masterclass inside the Glow Up membership that takes you through this step-by-step process. It's like a meditation. You just listen to it and you lean back, and within 20 minutes, gone. I love taking people through this because the reaction afterwards is always like, it always warms my heart, and it's so amazing to see because I'm like, okay, try to like feel that emotion right now, and people are like, wait, I can't feel it, it's gone. Like, it's gone and it will not come back. And I've used this personally for so many things, and like I always say, you don't know what you don't know. That is why I love just continuing to invest in my growth and do so much research and take all of these trainings and courses and certifications, because if I can alleviate someone's suffering in like 20 minutes, then I'm gonna sure as hell shout it from the rooftops, because like I'm like, people need to know this. You don't have to sit around with this painful emotion or with this painful fear that is just crippling you and keeping you from moving forward in your life and from creating your highest timeline on this planet in this lifetime, because that's what we all came here to do. But then trauma happens and life happens, and what happens? We get stuck and we can't move forward because these things have happened. And I want you to know that there is a way out of them. And like I said, I was stuck in phrase for years and I didn't even know it. And when I started to do somatics and just worked with my subconscious, everything changed. So I'm just checking my notes here to see, I make sure I didn't forget anything. So yeah, the somatics and the Clarity Block Masterclass are all found in the Glow Up membership. If you want to join the community, it's my favorite place to be on the internet. We have a private Telegram group. It's such a sisterhood. Like, I've never seen a place that has so much like sisterhood and community, and just whenever one of our members is going through something, like everybody has their backs in this community, and they just get showered with so much love from all the women inside. And then you have daily audios from me as well. I'm in there daily spreading the gospel of manifestation. Yeah, if you want to be in this energy and get access to 30 plus masterclasses to binge watch like Netflix, all around manifestation, nervous system regulation, I go really, really deep, like really deep, so much deeper than I could go into any podcast or YouTube video. So these will be in the description and show notes down below. I love you so, so much. If you feel like someone needs to hear this episode, video, wherever you're watching this on or listening to this on, please feel free to share it. It will help this podcast to grow. It will help my channel to grow. Feel free to share it. Leave your comments down below. Leave me suggestions and requests for episodes that you want me to record. I love you guys so, so much, and I will talk to you very soon.